After the Second World War and European Recovery Program, the state was the first capital holder, the primary schema. Free market investment was contained in a small or medium business case. In 1995, after the Hong Kong Stock Exchange has crashed, some implicated countries started privatizing their own capital in order to avoid toxicity and contradiction of interests between the state's policy and their own economic development. On the other side, the normal citizen is progressively implicated in a global economical landscape by taking part of capitals of huge companies. The capital, one and fully sovereign, is the notion that resulted after the disappearance of Soviet Union. The access to this capital was differently defined earlier in the recent history.
See the New World Map Vol 6 Part 1 by Kamal Fawad.
While in the Eastern Bloc it was detained by the central government. In the capitalist side it's a matter of personal involvement. This is a new dynamic in the usual functioning of the policy. Policymakers chose to put it freshly privatized companies under executive board of corporations, starting uncontrolled inflation in leadership caste and pretending to more personal earnings of this waterfall of new opportunities. This situation made the global well functioning under new conditions. Unfortunately, the political leadership did not improve with this new situation. Keeping the same intervention policy and state implication as the European side, the EU was the pretended harmonizing of this situation. By editing common laws and opening borders between member countries, in order to remediate to local politics inefficiency toward or interferes with global economy. By the year 2000, the addition of the euro was the final act of long negotiation rounds. Being insufficiently pro-capitalism, as resulted after the Eastern Bloc dislocation. The World Trade Center attack was the beginning of a long epilogue to all of that tumultuous story. Becoming a system of communicating vessels, the EU was submerged by interference of a non-organized local politics, while handling global policy. The fact is, the capital was to be defined as a cloud notion, merging globalization to local leadership, and confronting the capitalism to its own moral values, using malicious speech, in order to get more influence on the global stage.
See electoralism, dogmatism, and populism.
But the development that they chosen was to try to get back the control of the sovereign capital, away from the terms of conventions that issued the creation of the new common economical policy. Some political leaders chose to submerge the normal performances of the economy, and tried to derivate the conflict that opposed in 2001 capitalism to other theories. Sometimes by creating new political movements. Sometimes by general mood truncating. That's the goal, is to get more consequent in that cloud power. This cloud power became the alternative in practice, distorting more and more as far as it grows the nominal terms to conventionality or temporary and positional thinking, making more benefits from redefining meanings and political interposition. In the developed countries, this was somehow more cautioned and treated in some finer way. But in growing countries, this was seen as the opportunity to get somehow the influences as developing path, without observing terms as was defined, for an equilibrated and safe growing. Some of political speeches were outrageously interpreted or premeditated to expand it to make population of growing countries under dogmatic control. propagating corruption and international networks of influences trafficking. As a gain back, in the developed countries targeting that cloud power expand. Some countries saw a third wave of chaotic expansion. View the geographical position and immigrant concentration. Some political orientation appeared clearly in 2005 and after. Pretending an harmonious collaboration and convergent growing in own new terms. That would mean the renegotiation of nominal terms and the globalization radically. It's the 2008 crash. Without the roots, the cloud power, shadow power was to pretend to operate in economies as observing its own terms, without caring about capital roots and path as was to become after the disappearance of the Soviet Union. By the exploitation of their political speech and propaganda, some of the thinker of the shadow power access to government actions. It's the panic. In 2010, the efficient aspect of the shadow conspiracy was to become the mainstream most influent in view of experienced journalists. That was prepared and intruded during precedent episodes of influences. Leading the equal rights and minorities respectful policy. After the panic, it's the total chaos. Stand up against nominal terms that had to be seen at that time as colonial consequences and unfair treatment. By teaming cross-state organization and non-profit leadership, the shadow forces became the first factor of insurgency against globalization. At that time, the enemy of the Judaism became the shadow group itself. It's the final step. Two sides of dark power in perpetual conflict. So how this situation could be handled by nominal normal terms by the intelligence? It's a huge situation of civil society that could make the humanity in deadly danger of self-destruction. The apparition of new contestation media was to remediate to this game of rank and default gravitational attractivity. Other contestation movements came to say that it's no more representative of democracy, freedom, and civism. By 2010, in absence of a safe leadership that could reinsure the investors, the capital's flow became ununderstandable and volatile. Relocating and fleeing this impotent and imposant mutation. No new terms were to find if there is no safety from the dark forces. Some of countries had a right reaction to this new disposition by involving some of its leaders and all its political class in saving the global economy. As Japan, Israel, or also some Gulf countries like Kuwait or Qatar. Or much earlier in Russia by taking over the control by security services and the neutralization of this fake politics. In China, the early awareness of this phenomenon pushed central government to open to market and get fit with sovereign capital and its values in order to contain influences on its population. It's the same situation in Bahrain. In the Republic of Korea, the huge civic movement that was in the 80s and 90s protected itself from this nonsense policy and got involved in the region by acting at different levels to improve in this situation as a main actor and real partner of civic world. In the United Arab Emirates, the full task by authorities is to keep capitalism safe from propaganda and dogmatism by the implementation of civic practices and institutions in nominal terms. Even some known dictatorial regimes saw their profile changing in surrounding world by itself, and tried somehow to notify that civic idols are in danger. and more likely to be avoided from operating. Like North Korea, proving that it's a profound mutation, and getting concerned toward its own population destiny. By taking part to this civic involvement, and manifesting a minimum of compatibility to the global economy. Finally, in the United States, the emergence of social media is dedicated to keep civil society alive and rethink communication channels to bring civism to new levels. In the other hand, some of the contaminated countries started to involve leaders in order to justify the current chaotic situation by reinventing the preach and taking a partial gain of rank. It's the New World Map,